Okay, it is 4:30. Thank you again for being on time. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming in at kind of a weird time, 4:30 on a Sunday. Who wants to do anything then? But maybe it's good for people. At least you kind of get things out of the way after the early part of the day and maybe before stuff has been before dinner on Sunday. In any case, today's presentation is going to be on um, as you can read, summer planning and filling in the gaps. Um, Filling in the gaps meaning that well, we'll see. Moving right along to the first part of this presentation, the agenda. And like I said, we'll see why we're doing this. So, why are we doing this? The first thing we're going to go over in a couple of different ways, existentially, what is our objective, as well as why are we doing this presentation now? Um, General options for the summer and how things will, and how different gaps in the summer can be filled in by different experiences. Um, Different options by major. As we all know, the most important activity that students have is typically going to be something that's related to academics. So the way that I've broken this up is stuff that could be filler by the most popular majors that students have. Um, Options for everyone, regardless of major, what is going to be available. Um, and finally, housekeeping. We're going to have several upcoming presentations. Depending on the feedback I get, I can put it at different times. For this one, though, please take notes. This is something where I'm really doing it more for people that are that we're working with. And this is really something where it's kind of for you, and I want you to give me feedback and input because I want this to help us put together a good summer for everyone. So take notes, interact, let me and Kara and Shirley, whoever is appropriate, know what's appealing. Feel free to chat and ask questions during the presentation. I'm really big on like anonymity, so I don't let anybody know who's asking. And almost certainly other people will have the same questions. I am recording all of this, so if you miss something, um, then or if you're having trouble getting to sleep, then I'll send this to you and you can watch it at your leisure. With Without further ado, though, to begin with why we're doing this and why we're doing this now. Well, it's an appropriate time of year. Most big program deadlines are over. March 15th was the case for some, and these are summer program deadlines. Um, Cosmos will be coming back over the next couple of weeks, March 28th or 29th. Most program deadlines really were around March 1. So those have been over for a couple of weeks. And we're soon going to see that the programs that are out there, especially the big programs, are hard. And again, you can read obviously quite well. Um, Cosmos, for its sake, as everybody knows, is hard. Probably from our area, admits overall at about 10 to 15%. Um, and this is not 10 to 15% of the general population. It's not like you've got underperforming students from Vallejo that are applying to Cosmos. This is like really highly qualified kids, and 85 to 90% of them are getting denied. That's cluster contingent. Cosmos, as you may or may not know or recall, Cosmos admissions is based on cluster. So some clusters, um, for example, marine invertebrates tends to be not very popular. Other clusters, for instance, machine learning and artificial intelligence, tend to be quite popular. In all cases, overall, Cosmos is tough, as are the rest of the programs that students really popularly apply to. RMP, the Research Mentors Program at UC Santa Barbara, 5% admit rate, good program, but not a massive pedigree. Um, uh, um, SRA, it's kind of step sibling, the Summer Research Academy, a little bit easier to get into, but still admitting it at only 15 to 20%. So again, this is a self-selected group of students, and the applications are all long. We're thinking, okay, well, that's just STEM, right? Or just like hardcore STEM and research. What about something like psychology or neuroscience? Well, the Stanford CNIX program last year admitted at 12%. And to be frank, I did not know that. I thought that before, like about a month and a half ago, because it was not a it was a newer program, not super hard to get into, but last year, 12%. for a relatively unknown program, comparatively speaking. And the last one on this list, YYGS, the Yale Young Global Scholars Program, admitting it may be 20 to 30%. This program has had a weird evolution. When it was first introduced, like in 2010, 2011, it was rough, really hard to get into. And then they really expanded it. It got super easy to get into, and since then it's contracted. But they've held their admit numbers very close to the vest. So the best presumption is 20 to 30% acceptance rate, maybe lower. So the point is, we need plan Bs for the summer. We need backup plans. And if we don't use them, that's fine. It's better to have more than less, though. And we want to make sure that we have a productive summer. But what does that even mean? Productive summer. Oh, let me get that out of there. What does that even mean? What's the objective here? Like I say, we want to fill the summer with productive involvement. And let me put something else in quotes. I want to put fill, or like in italics as well. We want to fill the summer with productive involvement. What does fill mean? Fill means get enough in there where the student feels like, not overwhelmed, not like they haven't had a break, not like this is going to be like semester 3. We want filled to be something where it's like healthily filled, where you feel busy, but you can also decompress and be a normal teenager during the summer. So Phil, let me, please mentally put that in italics. Productive, in italics for a different reason, because nobody really knows what that means. I mean, it's very vague. So the way that I would say a productive summer is one of two things, and hopefully both. Number one, it adds to the profile for college. It adds to the resume. We get a line item out of it. We get something out of it that'll give us that'll move toward our goal of being well-rounded with pointy parts, where we have a little of this, a little of that, some volunteering, some arts, some leadership, but we have a couple of hooks, a couple of spikes that really stand out. So we want this summer to be kind of, to the extent that the student feels comfortable with it, filled up, busy, with productive involvement, meaning that it's adding to the college profile and or helping the students explore their interests. As I mention all the time, our job is a little bit, it's a little bit mercenary and a little bit, developmental, where we want the students to get into the best colleges possible, while at the same time, making sure they healthily explore their interests, figure out what they like, what they don't like, which is good mentally. And it's also people tend to do stuff that they like better than stuff that they don't like. So that's the objective here. You get the point of all of this stuff, is that that's like the goal with all of this. Get you exposed, get you understanding yourself, your interests, at the same time building the college profile and doing it in such a way that's not overwhelming, but you're not like sitting around collecting dust. To give you an illustration of a well-rounded with pointy parts a student, and this is one who was a UCLA computer science admit. And I always say, that for computer science stuff and for engineering stuff, the more you have, the better. It's good to be both narrow and broad at the same time, or you want depth and breadth at the same time, not narrowness and breadth, depth and breadth at the same time. So this is, I think, a very good uh, group of activities. This is from the student's UC application that kind of illustrate well-rounded as well as pointy enough for CS admissions at a top UC. So let's go over well-rounded. Student had a cool African library project that he spearheaded, where he gathered a whole bunch of books to contribute to a library in Africa, as one could ascertain. Medical outreach program where they did overseas medical outreach, a coding club outside of school that he managed. Did one-on-one tutoring as a tutor, varsity cross country and track, marathon awards or half marathon awards, as well as a couple of cross country awards, but nothing, bananas. Work at a boba shop, volunteering, teaching music, working at a family friend's business, a Christmas volunteering event, and then some stuff that's focused on CS, teaching Java. That's kind of more teaching than coding, obviously. But five community college CS classes, particularly helpful for UC, UCs, Cal State's community colleges, all intertwined. as well as 3 good summer programs, but none of them insane. It's not like he's doing like, RSI, which is like, the pinnacle of the STEM summer programs, or even MIT Beaverworks, which is the best CS summer program out there. Dude, did UPenn ESAP engineering summer at Penn? So good, solid, competitive program. Berkeley Roar, the autonomous vehicles program that does the RC car. When he did it, it was all virtual, so not quite as selective. And Inspirit AI, which is great, but it's not like it's not like Inspirit is like getting into Harvard. But some good focused stuff and really well developed activities among a well developed like exposure and exploration among the 5 CS classes and 3 programs that he wound up doing. And also, as you can see, some good other stuff. We've got some music things going on. We got some good volunteering going on. There were a bunch of awards that I didn't put in here, like for the cross country, and I think for music stuff as well. But yeah, good illustration here of something that's relatively recent, current, and what most students are going to kind of gravitate towards and want. So, well, a lot of students will CS admissions at UCLA, but this is kind of like the goal, and not insane, really. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, the kid's been involved and really good. But again, no patents, no like 1% admit rate summer programs, no publications, you know, in phony baloney private journals. So, what's left right now? Obviously, we've gone through a lot of the programs that are competitive. Beaverworks is still coming up. We got a bunch of Aurora, several March 30 programs. And then we've got SIP, the UC Santa Cruz Science Internship Program. Is that April? That's April 1 too. So yeah, that's about as late as it's gonna get. A poly, but so what do we have that's left? Let's go over it. I'll stop, running my head. Um, okay. So remaining options that we have. So we've got some still open programs. I always like to let me just go onto the interwebs as an illustration here. So I always kind of I like these. Gosh darn it. Okay, here we go. Um, always a little bit pricey program. So the one that I always use as the illustration is Columbia pre-college programs. A bargain, 3 weeks at $12,000. Obviously all dependent on your relationship with money. Not something that's if you do it, then fabulous for you. I think it's wonderful. Some people really want that Ivy League experience. But if you're looking as kind of like just on a balance sheet return on investment for college admissions, not that, not knocking anything out of the park. So we've got we've got that's left. Some real pricey summer programs. Those jazz are always going to be open. We've got some nice kind of community oriented service programs. Like youth community service in Palo Alto. That's going to be open. We'll have some cool stuff with that. That's going to be around. A good number of day programs will be open, from things like YCS, the Youth Community Service programs, to other civic engagement programs like Saratoga, the Saratoga Youth in Government program, where students in Saratoga can apply to basically shadow for a week or two local city officials. It's not open yet. I'm so sorry. I keep going out of this thing. It's still. Oh, where is it? Is it still? Is it open? It's that might be it. Oh no. Here it is. I have it out of order. Gosh darn it. Um, but yeah, the youth in government program, short, cheap, good exposure, good introduction to, and good kind of not even introduction, developed kind of pursuit of governmental type stuff. So, so yeah, going to still be open. Jobs are still going to be open, and these are the options I'm just going to go over that are more general. Like I said, I'll start associating these with majors and what they would wind up working best for in just a moment. But let me just give kind of a bird's eye view of what's going to be out there. A lot of pricey summer programs, some of these day programs that'll be local, jobs, and with jobs, I really think the grittier the better. Since I was in admissions, the word is all, and I never really felt this way, but the word was always like, you want a student that has a job in order to show grit, that they don't have a silver spoon in their mouth. It's like that can be shown by any number of ways. But a job's not a bad way to show it. As I mentioned very frequently, the grittier the better, and by gritty, it's my other people. That's about as gritty as you can get dealing with other human beings, typically in food service or retail. And I'm a broken record really with my praise of Starbucks as a good opportunity for work, especially for 16 plus. Starbucks, again, to sound like a broken record, great for understanding standard operating procedures, point of sale, cash exchange, supply chain, unionization. I think you'd learn everything in a Starbucks branch with the exception of maybe marketing and advertising. Retail also very, very good. Wherever you're dealing with the public, the hoi polloi, the great unwashed. It's always something where you're at least going to get good stories out of it. I mean, one story from this past year that was wonderful was a student that worked at he worked at a Pakistani restaurant in Palo Alto, speaking Spanish to his Spanish coworkers. And it was a really neat story that wound up disclosing a lot of cool stuff about him. Very, very vivid. From the year before, the student that was admitted early decision to Claremont McKenna that did a neat overlapping in his main Common App essay between his Starbucks job and the leadership experiences he brought from Starbucks back to Boy Scouts. As I say in the second bullet here, nobody believes that you're really working in any position of any consequence in like finance at NVIDIA. So, whenever you see those types of jobs on there, like, yeah, I'm working at a private equity fund. It's like, yeah, I'll bet you are. Let's see who in the application works at said private equity fund, who's working at NVIDIA. If you're doing stuff that's like low level debugging and things that are reasonable for somebody to do of your skill level, then great. But the flashy name, it's not like it's that hard to kind of see through. So jobs again, grittier the better. That's something that we try and help with. We put together resumes, we give it, the jumping off points, but a lot of that really is kind of pounding the pavement and looking for jobs in local strip malls around the area. Very sophisticated, I realize, but that's where we are. Um, Volunteering is also something that we're left with. And this is something that I'll go into detail a bit more as we start going into the individual major related stuff. For some programs, volunteering really, for some majors in particular, you like need volunteering. For other majors, it's kind of like, just show that you're not a bad person and that you play well with others. And we'll go over that a little bit. One thing, and this is just kind of keeping, squarely on brand for the Silicon Valley, everything is competitive, even donating your time for free. So, in many cases, volunteering is 16 plus. It's somewhat selective, like Washington Township Hospital in Fremont, off Walnut. That one has like a wait list. But there are enough available and still enough positions out there where starting now, we can identify positions for the summer and start planning and applying to, just like with everything, plan A's, plan B's, and plan C's with the volunteering stuff as well. Now that's face-to-face volunteering that I'm talking about. And there's also online volunteering. Face-to-face volunteering is great for health related stuff, for political science related stuff, the canvassing, pressing the flesh, gripping and grinning, smiling people, interacting with them. But online volunteering is solid too. Um, Most online volunteering opportunities will not qualify for PVSA, for the President's Volunteer Service Award. So if you wanted to get like, and it's not that like that matters, but if you wanted to get some like, some deliverable for what you did, I haven't found an online service opportunity that does that. PVSA is obviously the President's Volunteer Service Award. If you're aware or not, it's typically linked through particular organizations that are approved to give hours for PVSA. So online opportunities, I haven't seen ones, but there's plenty out there for online, and we'll go over that in just a moment as well. Um, More remaining options. Faculty work, the great expense on our end, the great line item expense. This is something that we offer to everyone. It's a long process. It's laborious. It can be hit or miss, but we help you with every step of the way. With the faculty opportunity work, we're developing resumes, cover letters, curating faculty to work with. Right around mid-March to the end of March tends to be the sweet spot for the summer. So if it was something that you wanted to pursue, and not everybody should, it's not something that you need research in order to get into an undergrad institution, but we definitely would do that and help with it. But again, you got to have patience and you got to grind it out. And even then it's not always successful. So, I'll be honest. And when we get to some of the different fields, I'll give you the success rates. Business, typically quite good. Health sciences and sciences in general, it's competitive. But we'll move on to that in just a moment. I'm really kicking everything down the line with this. It's just really, really building the suspense. Another option, and this is Shirley Young's really bailiwick, as they say, community college classes. Shirley has a very uncanny ability like Liam Neeson in Taken, except she just knows every community college and the classes that are open at any given time. So with community college stuff, the summer calendars for some schools like Columbia College in the mountains, they're already open. I don't think that summer stuff is open yet as far as a schedule for any standard um mid or early June, late June community college start dates. But once it's open, Shirley sends out an all points bulletin, lets you know if you need help, and she works with you to complete dual enrollment forms, have primary, secondary classes. Again, community college stuff works a little bit better in some cases than others. Computer science, for instance, fabulous. Some not quite as good. I'll save the drama for just a second from now. But community college classes, good. Um, for the record, in case you're not aware, community college classes are California community colleges. If you're in California, it's very good. If you're out of state, very good also, but they'll soak you for tuition. Um, uh, uh, but they're integrated with Cal States and UCs. For UC approved community college classes, your GPA will be bumped up a notch, just like an AP course. And for everybody, it looks good. It's never bad to have extra college courses, on your application. It's always going to be an advantage in some way. If it's a directly quantifiable one, like with UC and California community colleges, great. If it's something where it's just qualitative, it still works well. Is it worth it? We can talk about that. Finally, not finally. I think we've got some more. Decoration, like certificate non-credit courses that you do on your own. That works for computer science. That works for real niche engineering type things. It's nice to have some stuff in maybe some of the health sciences. It's nice to have maybe some for writing. Again, some fields that the certificate programs work well for better than others. That's kind of bottom of that is lowest barrier to entry and lowest real level of commitment though. So, we do those are real filler when we really need to kind of when we're really scraping the barrel. Um, Additional things, test prep. This is going to be not necessarily for Rising 12th. Most of you all have your tests out of the way. And not really for Rising 10th. It's not like you need to prep for the PSAT. But for Rising 11th, pretty much everybody's going to do it unless you're like 1480, 1490 plus on the PSAT. With Excellent question. Just as a pause, when does credit from summer college classes get counted toward the high school grade? Summer before ninth grade or summer after ninth grade? Excellent. Summer after ninth grade, summer before 10th grade is when community college classes count toward the UC and Cal State GPA. The UC and Cal State GPA begins summer after ninth through summer after 11th. The summer preceding 10th to the summer preceding 12th. And everything in there is counted in the UC and Cal State GPA. For everybody else, it's hit or miss. Some schools look at ninth, some schools don't look at ninth. But if we're really talking about what you get the most mileage out of community college classes for, UCs and Cal States, summer before 10th through summer after 11th. Excellent question. And let me actually, I'll answer. There's a couple more. I'll answer those once I wind up getting to this, or else I'll lose the crowd in this thrilling presentation. I don't want to do that. Other things, summer before 11th, test prep. There are various levels of test prep. Generally speaking, you can do, and then you're going to do test prep, as I said, for as Rising 11th, unless you're like 1480, 1490 on the PSAT, and you just don't need it, and it would be way. Then you just go to Blue Book, the online resource for the adaptive tests. That's the one repository for those tests right now, is Blue Book, where you can access the digital SAT. So you don't need much help. DIY, Khan Academy, Blue Book, Erica Meltzer, her SAT stuff, College Panda for math if you want to do it. The guy George from 1600.io, he's cool. But I think he charges now. DIYs, there you go with that. Another option, focus on a single subject. The most students anywhere need help mostly on English rather than the math. And there are quite a few places in the Valley and online that do English only prep. And it tends to work well. I mean, if you're getting a 780, 790 on math, you just might need to avoid making careless mistakes. And you don't need to avoid anything. You're doing great. But if you wanted to bump up the score, you would want to it's not like you need to learn anything. You don't need drilling. If you're mid 600 something, then you probably need a little bit of help. So third option, big broad programs that do math as well as English. That kind of depends on your goal. For some students, they're fine with their current score. For other students, they really want to call in the cavalry. And the really, I feel as though the qual or not the quality, but the results of the program typically correlate to the amount of time that the program makes the student commit to doing the drilling. Um, but yeah, test prep, different levels of test prep over the summer. We can talk about that individually. Um, Preview courses, again, not any credit with them, but for going into 11th grade or even going into 12th grade, preview courses are going to be helpful. For the usual suspects, AP Bio to get ahead, AP Chem, AP Phys to learn the material a little bit more, AP Calc if you're feeling a little bit shaky. So yeah, preview courses typically good. Share World, Spring Light, Flex, M&T. Everybody generally pretty solid. Try and go to a local one because they're typically going to know the curriculum that the teacher is teaching in any given school. And competitions are something else that can be done over the summer. Typically, there aren't competitions. Typically, there's competition prep. So, like one thing that we mentioned for business students, a national economics challenge, you can do prep over the summer. Obviously, U.S. Computing Olympiad, you can do prep over the summer. AMC Amy, you can do prep over the summer. I mean, usually you're doing it in like the fall and winter, but like USFO, prep, F equals MA, all of that, you can do it. You can at least start it over the summer and make a plan. If we're really trying to fill things in, and I think this is the last one I've got. Okay, this is the last one I've got for general things, and then I'll pause and I'll take questions for those of you who still have not fallen asleep. So, something else that can be done, portfolio development. I would say probably half of our students are involved in something between music and visual performing arts. Colleges will typically accept portfolios. You don't want to do it if you're like, just starting out. You don't want to, or if you're not good and you're admitting that to yourself. But if you're solid, if you're a good performer, if you're competing in regional, state kind of competitions or orchestras and so forth, you might have a talent or an instrument that you can contribute to a university. So in that case, portfolio is not a bad idea to kind of work on. I know Hong Young Art does a lot of portfolio work over the summer. The place on Stevens Creek in Cupertino. Music teachers will do a good amount of work. For the record, there's really three ways that portfolios are looked at. Number one, like UC for most freshman degree programs, they don't look at it. There's nowhere to even send it in. There's nothing that's considered. Yeah, UCSD different, UCLA digital media arts, yeah, all that different. But for the most part, they throw it out. Number two, Stanford, where they don't have like a particular for music. They don't have like a particular college of music or school of music. They've got very good faculty, very good student ensembles. They've got a department of music. So you send in a portfolio and it's or the audition and your what you're putting together, the pieces that you're being asked to perform are prescribed. You send in like pieces from Bach or whomever by a certain deadline. That's reviewed by the faculty member. If it's good, great. It can help a little bit in the application. If it's not good, it does tend to work against you, I'd say. So that's number one, UC, throw it out. Number two, Stanford, a faculty member, look at it. If good, great. It'll be like a really good extracurricular activity. Good on you, and it's going to help. Third way is that the third way is usually for Bachelor of Music programs, performance type programs, where it's like Shepherd at Rice, being in at Northwestern, Peabody at Hopkins, Curtis, New England Conservatory, Juilliard. In these cases, the academics are largely secondary, and you're riding in the audition, the pre-screening and the audition itself. And we have at least one student every year that'll go to this route, and it's rough. But they're good, and this year, got a real stud that's planning on doing it. Okay, but in any case, portfolio development, something you can work on, not for everybody. Two more things, just as general stuff to look at. Developing a venture or a nonprofit. There should be a little bit of a trademark after that because it's so cliche and overdone right now. But for business, developing a venture is always good, especially if you sink your time in it. We have a student that has a car detailing business right now. He's been doing it for the last 2 years, growing it. It's successful. It shows grit. His counselors know about it. People are going to be speaking about it. This past year, I'm not gonna. People will probably identify. One of our Ivy admits had a really good business that he or she, not gonna say who, developed over the course of the last several years in food and in pastries. That's just been massive, and she has developed it for the last like 3 years and made it really big and impressive. Um, uh, um, with nonprofits, similar type things. But you had, like I mentioned, with the two that I just mentioned that are successful, the kid that's doing the car detailing, as well as the other person that did the baked goods, the pastry stuff. It was done over a long period of time. It didn't need to be successful, but it turned out to be successful because, just like most things in life, if you wind up putting time into it and effort into it, you do get a little bit of traction. So both of these were, they were long term, long time horizon, not like, let me start something up, spend 10 hours of it, and slap an LLC name on it. It was good and developed. And it was the same thing for students that have developed 501c3s, nonprofit organizations that want them to be successful. You got to give it legs. You got to make it extensive. You got to develop it. The one that I've seen that's extensive is a kid from Saratoga that graduated about 4 years ago and went to Stanford. I mean, he started this nonprofit with economics in like ninth grade, extended it to other schools in the district, extended it to schools in other states through clubs. It was brilliant and got tons of mileage out of it. Coup de grace was week before Stanford applications were due. Um, he had a Stanford econ professor that was due to give a presentation to his group, and the guy the week before the applications were due was awarded the Nobel Prize in econ. So this really neat thing that tied everything together and a real chef's kiss at the end. But LLC or 501c3, business or nonprofit, you want to put some sweat equity into that. Oh, you're so great. People are raising hands. With One more thing, and then I'll stop and take questions. Um, Last thing, among all the other things, we've got like a dozen different things that we can choose from. They're all, different degrees of commitment. This last one I always think is cool. Not a lot of people take me up on it because it requires a lot of effort. But for rising 12th graders, a creative project just done for the application alone. Like one that's a good one that I always come back to because a lot of students have the skill set. It's students that have a business interest and have some design background. With that one, yeah, hit put together a small portfolio of what your design stuff is, what your artistic works looks like, try and orient it towards kind of logo-ish design. Go to small businesses in the community, offer them design services for free, or like at a nominal fee of like $5. You got yourself a neat little resume, a neat little portfolio, some product that you could showcase if you wanted to in a portfolio, as well as a good essay topic, and it doesn't take tons of work if you already have the background. Um, Other things that are similar, creating a massive scale model of your hometown in Legos. For students that have an interest in Spanish, doing something like hiking the Machu. I mean, this is ridiculous, but hiking the Machu Picchu Trail or the Camino de Santiago. So things that could be done without tons of not tons of groundwork, in maybe the span of a month over the summer. Ranging from the cool little marketing thing, like I said, with design, all the way up through traipsing across the north of Spain. But let's see what we got as Q&A is concerned. Okie dokie. I will send the presentation on the recording. That's number one. Number two, I heard that the digital SATs are super hard compared to the paper ones. I heard that one too. A couple of weekends ago. It was all over Reddit and College Confidential. People were so unhappy with the digital SAT, and they say it's far harder than what they found on Blue Book. It's really uncanny that people thought that this was going to be so much easier, and it seems like it was. But a couple of the administrations that people got were really really rough. So yeah, the DSAT, the digital SAT, very hard. Compared to the it seems that way. Compared to the paper SAT. The thing that people were anticipating, because on the Blue Book exams, apparently and I haven't taken it for as a comparison, sorry, but it is apparently much easier. And on the PSAT is much easier than the PSAT being the pre-SAT, the thing that kids take in 10th and 11th grade that doesn't really count towards anything aside from national merit. That's the PSAT. Um, uh, um, but yeah, the PSAT was reading not bad, really streamlined, really truncated. And On the real digital SAT, not streamlined, not truncated, or it was streamlined, but it was just really hard. So it seems like there's going to be maybe not as steep a curve as everybody thought it was going to be, but the English was hard and the math didn't seem easy at all. So yeah. Um, I don't know what this shows. We'll see, I think on March 22nd. That's when we're gonna get the scores. So we'll see what the much how much as they say biblically, gnashing of teeth and rending of garments there are. Um, Okie doke. So those are some. Let me keep going for more of these. And also, if you instead of raising your hand, if you could just type the question in there, that would probably make things a lot easier, and you can probably formulate a question easier too. And I can come back because, as you know, I wander a little bit. Um, okay. So yeah, with okay. So grades, got that, got that, got that. Yes, I'll be studying the presentation. Digital SAT. Yes. Okay. If kids take community college classes, do they have to attend the whole time, or is it okay to skip a week? Um, Probably not okay to skip a week because community college classes are so compressed. That's the bad news. The good news, though, is that 90% of them are going to be available online. So you don't need to, as long as you can make accommodations in your schedule to get the work done, you could be anywhere. And that's especially the case. And I'll get into this momentarily when we get to computer science classes in particular. And this would also be Leon for you with and Isaac the was supposed to be business classes as well, principles of business, intro to marketing, intro to accounting, but they can largely be done online. The one thing that's happening lately is that for health science classes and lab science classes, more and more schools are turning toward face to face. So bad news is you can't skip and you got to pay attention. Good news is you could probably do it from wherever you are, unless you're like deep into the jungles of Borneo. Um, okay, next doing Boy Scouts for 6 years and about to achieve Eagle. How far does it go towards volunteer hours? Are there better volunteering options for CS majors? I don't think so. I'm very biased towards that. I did not do Scouts growing up. I grew up in the city, and we didn't San Francisco, and we didn't know anything about Scouts. There was a kid in my senior class who got Eagle Scout, and we all looked at each other like, "Oh my God, we didn't know this was a thing here." Um, but after getting to working at UC in particular, they really wound up giving tons of weight to it, and it makes sense because it really is like an all-in-one type of thing. You got volunteering stuff, you've got leadership stuff, you've got awards and honors, and you've got a lot of little life skills that you can work on and growth experiences. So just generally speaking, I like Eagle. For volunteering hours, Eagle goes a long way also. I mean, there's required hours, obviously, and there's required hours that you have to coordinate. Can that be awarded toward President's volunteer service hours? It wouldn't. No, it couldn't. It wouldn't be because most of the service hours that you get for Eagle are typically spent on other Eagle projects, right? But it still helps, even though it's not PVSA. With PVSA stuff, my opinion is you don't need the President's Volunteer Service Award. I think it's good to do the amount of volunteering that it would take to typically get that, but you don't need the award. So Eagle volunteering, even though it's typically not going to be PVSA kind of certified stuff, is still really good because of the volume of work that you get. And like I said, it's like the Swiss Army knife of activities. You get everything in there. Are there better volunteering options for CS majors? I would say no. I would say there's nothing better because volunteering for CS majors is at the majority of schools you're looking at, I think secondary. I mean, volunteering, I mean, not for like Penn, or like Notre Dame, like a Catholic school that tends to be good at engineering. That's probably significant there. But for Illinois, they're not going to care that you're like doing relay for life. They're going to care that you're good at math. So I would say that Eagle, because of the fact that you get more than just volunteering out of the volunteering, I'd say that's the best that you could do, if that makes sense. Um, Taking the SAT before ninth grade for a CATY program, a good idea. That's fine. It's not going to count and show up on anything, and so it's not going to be not that you have to withhold anything. I mean, the SAT and College Board let you withhold, or not that you have to disclose anything. College Board lets you withhold everything because, as you all probably know, the more they allow you to withhold scores and make it look like you never took it, the more that you're going to be inclined to take the $60 per administration test, and make them money. So you can withhold the scores regardless. Scores before ninth grade don't count and show up on the official College Board report, even if you wanted to show everything. So not bad. I mean, it's the only thing. I mean, if the student's not at a level that where they'd perform well, maybe it'll wind up, maybe like kind of impact their self-esteem a little bit. But it's not like the kids around here. It's not like kids are in ninth grade getting like 1380s. Like the national average is like 1080. So, ninth grade usually probably going to be solid. Um, okay. So yeah, next one. How many summer programs should we apply on average every year? It's hard to get into the popular ones, but there are also other options. Enrolling in summer classes at summer college. I'll get to that right now, because this is actually going to be contingent on the major that you wind up choosing and the field of study that you want to go into. Not that you have to know this right now, and not that everything is going in that direction. But like we've talked about before, as far as like the hierarchy of extracurricular activities is concerned, academic stuff is at the top. Deep, sustained, accomplished academic involvement is up there. Followed by leadership and then followed by everything else. But you do want to have some academic involvement. Does that mean you got to spend 12 grand to live in Harlem for 3 weeks at Columbia? No. You can, in some cases there are going to be fewer options. As we'll get to in the health sciences in particular. Because it's typically, and like even like with the community college classes that whoever you did anonymous attendee that you mentioned, that those need to be like, those are a little bit limited, and you need to do those face to face these days, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, one more question before I go on. Is it too late to register a nonprofit organization junior year? No, not really, but it depends on how far you are already in the process. If you haven't started already, then the process is just laborious because you're dealing with the state and you're dealing with the feds, and they don't move fast. So if it was something where I would do this, start the organization. I mean, and this is obviously we're probably working together, anonymous attendee, but we can talk about this, but you would want to start the organization first, and then while starting the organization, file the paperwork for nonprofit, so you can at least have like the two things going on at once. You wait until the paperwork's been finalized to start it, and you're like sitting there growing a beard like Rip Van Winkle. So let's go into my field of interest. We've gone generally speaking over the stuff that's available. So a lot of the big fancy summer programs are no longer available, but that doesn't matter in many cases. There's still quite a bit that's left, but we do want to start planning for things now, because now is kind of the sweet spot for faculty work, for volunteering, for remaining programs, and so forth. So let's look at everybody's most favorite major in our area, computer science and engineering. And as I say often, because I'm like the most unoriginal person ever, you want to have breadth and depth with computer science and engineering, more than most other fields of study. CS and engineering at most schools you apply to is going to be a direct entry program of some site, and there's going to be a special review of the application. Just like there would be with a Bachelor of Architecture application or a direct entry Bachelor of Science in Nursing application. When you're direct entry programs, you need a little bit more of an orientation toward that field. You have to be pointier and a little bit less well-rounded. But in the case of computer science and engineering, you kind of want it all. You want the breadth, you want the depth, and the more that you have to draw from, the better you're going to wind up being. So as far as programs are concerned that are left, just to point out three that most people will know about. I've got them queued up on the website, but nobody wants to see that right now. It's going to take forever, and everybody can figure it out. You let me know if you got questions on them. So the first one, IIT, Illinois Institute of Technology, cheap, accessible, not super long, online. They also have face-to-face. We've had plenty of students that have done face-to-face. Oh, no, we've had plenty of students that have done online. We've had one that's done face-to-face, and it was supposed to be nice in Chicago, not MIT, not Georgia Tech, not even Rochester Institute of Technology, but still solid school, solid online programs. They got some neat stuff that's still available. A week-long, I think, cybersecurity program, a week-long game design through Twine. I don't know that program, but that's one of the programs. And a data science program. And there's not a lot of data science programs that are out there right now. There's the Chicago Pathways program. There's the UPenn Data Science Academy, but both of those are like maybe a little bit overkill. So Illinois Tech, data science, CS, very good, low barrier to entry. And it's I'm not going to go on. I might as well. I'm not making it look nice, but at least people get the information. So Illinois Tech, this is them. These are the main campus ones. Code Creators, Pandemic Pro. Everybody wants to hear about the pandemic now. Nobody's sick of it at all. Architecture, that's neat. RoboCamp, like RoboCop. Face to face, face to face, and then the online ones: math, data science, game design through Twine, cyber defenders, AI. So neat, a week long, online, remote, low barrier to entry, cheap, especially for you seniors that don't have like a ton going on with CS. You need to be able to answer the question, what do you want to major in? And the only way you answer it is not like by riffing on your innate curiosity. It's by drawing from experience. Inspirit AI, another one that a lot of students around our area have done, and a lot of students not around our area have done. It's a good program. It's not something that I typically recommend. Like third-party programs are typically they're trying to squeeze you for every nickel, and in some level they're no different. But at least on the front end, you know what you're getting into. It's not super expensive, and you get good exposure to artificial intelligence, ethics of AI, a cool little project. Um, they'll try and upsell you afterwards on this AI plus X Scholars program, but even that's not bad. We had a student that did it last year and had a really good essay about the project that he did, and he wound up at Caltech, so it didn't hurt. Um, so those two guys, one that I didn't leave up there was Frontiers through WPI, through Worcester Polytech. And I only bring up Frontiers because I guess I didn't. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna okay. So Frontiers, um, they went dark for a while during the pandemic and after the pandemic. But before that, I had a couple of students um back in back in the mid 2000s that did it, and they loved it. They liked it a lot. They said the facilities were really good, new, clean. Not that you need clean. It's not like an Arby's. Nice. But it was a nice setup, and they do have individual courses where it's not like a general STEM exploration program. They've got individual CS stuff. Um, so there we've got that for summer programs. None of which are super expensive. With all that, I'm always the cheapskates. For CS as well, community college classes are great. Community college classes don't work for everything, as I've said, but for CS, they're the best. And Foothill is the best. And Shirley will walk you through the application stuff. The problem with Foothill though is they do fill up early, but there's lots of them. They're online. They're async. Java, C++, Python. You got to make sure you get everything in early. Follow Shirley's directions for the dual enrollment application. And you got to move quickly when your registration date hits, because high school students get last priority for college registration. And a lot of the CS classes go quick. You can apply. I mean, there's 118 community colleges in our state, and in theory, you could apply to all 118 for the summer and have 117 backup plans, with Foothill being the primary consideration. So, sounds like the most boring way to spend your time ever, applying to 118 community colleges, but that's an option. Not anybody has the number of CS online classes that Foothill has. De Anta doesn't. Ohlone, CSM Mission, a lot of them are face to face. Foothill's the best. Competitions. There's some good ones out there that are helping, even though they're not super duper official, and you can kind of do on your own, like LeetCode and Kaggle. And from what I understand, LeetCode is used in hiring too. But both of these are good ways of doing online competitions and establishing your proficiency in programming on a less professional level. And on a level where you're not going to be able to compete over the summer, but you can do prep, is USACO, the U.S. Computing Olympiads. A lot of places offer USACO prep. There's online stuff. There's AlphaStar out by Mission College, who's supposed to be good. Some students, I think, just take a C++ class and follow USACO guidelines on prep, and do old tests and old problems. Two more things, then I'll answer questions on this one. Another thing good for CS faculty work. The only thing that you're going to get from computer science, though, with faculty work, realistically, is going to be the application of computer science or data science or math principles to stuff that's not CS. So doing real like frontline research in computer science is hard to land for high school students. It's much easier to land like application of computer science or Python or programming or R or MATLAB to somebody's research in art history or anthropology or economics. Also it's getting tougher. This is something where when I first started doing this, and the whole, or like that I came up with the idea of it, not like it's sophisticated, in like 2008, and it's something that everybody is now kind of doing, like cold emailing faculty in order to see if you can land something. So there's like, 2,800 four-year colleges in the country. There's going to be opportunities in most places. But you might not have a machine learning prof from MIT that you're working with. You might have somebody that's in like, sociology at South Dakota State, where you're using your Python skills to help them with a publication. Um, and finally, any work experience, practical experience by nepotism or not. Just make sure that that's of your level. We're in an area that's everybody knows somebody who at least knows somebody who has a startup, and everybody's cousin can get them on board. So if you can find that, then it really I think is worthwhile. It's a good showcasing of skills. Yeah, this is one of the few areas where I think that you, especially with like the real like kind of the lower level type work that you could do with a startup, it seems as though that's something where you could get something out of the professional experience, where stuff where you were doing it in like finance, maybe not quite so believable or not quite so practical. Okay, Q&A. Do you recommend summer programs over a CC course, or are they equivalent? That's an excellent question. Summer programs over CC course, or are they equivalent? I would say for health sciences, I mean, all things being considered equal with the cost, I would say for health sciences, I would probably do the summer programs, or they'd be preferable. Because as you're going to see, and as I'm going to get to, the health science stuff, it's there's so little to do that's online. There's some stuff that you can do online, but it doesn't translate as well. It's you can, even like with the faculty work stuff. We have students, a lot of students that have worked with health science, or that are like bio professors, help doing background research for publications. And it's really great. But it's not something where they're getting exactly out of it what they want to, because it's mostly like biostat stuff. And people in the health science things, if they want to get real practical exposure, they usually want to have kind of wet lab exposure. And that means from the Bay Area that you're looking at Stanford, Santa Clara, and UCSF, maybe University of San Francisco, because the Cal States typically won't allow high school students on campus. And I think that Cal probably has similar restrictions, but UCSF works out well. But that's the problem. Health science stuff, it's better, I think, sometimes to have kind of the face-to-face thing. If your only option is Columbia Summer College for 12 grand, I don't know, but yeah, that's one of the things, face-to-face. For and for other things too, do I recommend do we recommend summer programs? And even with that, like the for the community college stuff, or for the versus for the community college stuff versus the health science stuff. Um, like community college classes in public health at Foothill and De Anza, very, very good. Bump up the GPA. So, you've got a choice between that and doing like, some real pay to play program. I'd definitely do the community college classes, but both things being equal, you got like a legitimate, strong, summer program and and community college class, and money's no issue, then I'd do the summer program probably for that. And there's a couple that are still open. There's programs that all very cheap. Just kidding. So Georgetown, the academies, they've got a 1 week, a 2 week, and a 3 week that deal with everything. They've got good political science stuff. They've got good business stuff, and they really do have good pre-med and health science stuff. We've had several students that have done the Georgetown programs. A little bit selective, but not overly so by any stretch of the imaginations. They require a deposit like as soon as you get in, but it's largely refundable. UC Davis has some good programs in forensic chemistry and pre-meds right now that are solid, 2 weeks long, on the Davis campus. Those are not over the top as far as extent or price, or extent length or price. So those are worthwhile to look into. And another one that's very good, and it seems like just opened up their application, is the Stanford Young Leaders Conference, which is um a hepatitis B awareness program. Is run by the Stanford Liver Center. They had the 2023. They gotta pay to get this stupid Wix thing off. But they just had the 2023 on there until recently. So this is happening this year. I don't know if it's going to be the past couple of years, this has been online, so they've been really able to to accept a whole ton of students. But this year, I don't know where I thought that it might be face to face. Maybe I'm wrong. So if it's face to face, then it's just, logistically you can't accommodate as many people. But in any case, this is one that's very good, though. The Young Liver, the Youth Leadership Conference. Cheap, not long, not super duper competitive, good exposure. And they also they encourage students to do this thing called Join Jade afterwards, which is kind of the continuation of the program, establishing a Jade Ribbon Club at the student's school. Um, Okay, so summer programs over a CC course, or are they equivalent? Kind of depends on the summer program and what the goal is. Something else to consider is with the CC course. Do you want to apply to UC and do you need to bump up the GPA? If that's the case, the CC course is going to be better than most things. Are you not applying to UC at all and you already have a very rigorous, perfect transcript? If that's the case, then you're probably the CC course is going to wind up not having quite as much utility as it would otherwise. Um, when can you take a Foothill CC class? That's the next one. Foothill is one of three quarter system schools in the state, along with De Anza and Lake Tahoe Community College. Not that anybody needed to know that. But the courses at Foothill will start go from first week of July to first week of August for the summer quarter. They will go from like third week of September to first week of December for the fall quarter, and then they will go first week of January to middle of March for winter, and then spring goes April to middle of June, something like that, beginning of June maybe. You can do the summer ones. The registration for spring is open now and is getting to be close to the starting date, I think. For summer, not for usually you need to submit the application by around the end of April, beginning of May, maybe a little bit earlier. I think that most high school students registration deadlines are end of May. So you got a little bit of time on the Foothill summer courses. um for computer science, does it help to do a side passion projects like launching an app or a website? I think it could. It depends on the sophistication of it and what you're doing. With back when app development was in its infancy, and students seem to have really needed to know quite a bit of programming in order to develop and ship an app. That was a really good project. It doesn't seem as though it's got the same weight or importance for students these days anymore. That all said, we had a student from 2 years ago that's a student at Cal now that did very cool work on it, some kind of a golf app from overseas. And it was high level stuff. It was neat. The programming was sophisticated. The design was sophisticated. So that I think wound up being a good experience for her. Developing one on your own. I would say this. I would say it would be a good companion project to other stuff. I don't know if I would wind up unless it was something where you're using it for like the Congressional App Challenge or some real significant competition. I don't know if I would have it as like the centerpiece of every time. But doing it at the same time as something else would definitely be like I say, a nice compliment to other programs. And it would be nice to write about as well. It would be good to write about as well. Um, are UC scored the same? Okay, so computer science, passion project. The other thing is, I'll tell you this too, with the passion project, so to speak, one thing that they do tend to do is they give students character and personality. And as I said before, with a lot of the computer science programs you're applying to, there are large flagship public schools, then they don't really care so much about personality. They care about like the level of kind of mathematical and engineering acumen that you have. Um, uh, um, but it's not going to hurt. It's but again, I would say to get the most mileage out of it for computer science and engineering, not only would you need to have the passion project to show passion and initiative and grit and curiosity, but you would want to have the parts of it that would also really showcase the technical acumen, you know. So I think it would work, but unlike doing something in like poli sci or uh, it's econ, business, it's got to be, you really want the technical side of it to come through. Um, Great question. All right, next one. Are UC Scout courses the same as community college courses, or are CC courses better? It depends. They're different. UC Scouts are high school courses. Community college courses are college courses. It depends on what you want to do. If you're trying to if you're trying to do a preview course, then UC Scout courses are usually good because they're going to be more on a high school curriculum. If you are trying to do computer science stuff, I would say that community college courses are going to be better because there's only two computer science UC Scout courses, or only two AP ones, APCSA, APCSP, and you'll just have a lot more variety at a community college. Also, you won't have a community college course. There's only a limited number of Scout courses because there's like a limited number of UC preferred courses. There's infinite numbers of community college courses. You want to take something in, like, I'm trying to think of like econ. What would you have at Scout? AP macro, AP micro, but you wind up doing it at Foothill, you'd have like any number of different things, like like economics of emerging economies and stuff like that. So there's a time and there's a place for everything. But I would say each one kind of has its advantage depending on the type of class that you're looking for and what the goal is. Yeah, good question. For CS though, for computer science, I would say that community colleges have the edge, and I would probably take APCSP or APCSA at the home school because those are typically not that hard to do well in. All right, next one. Compare sophomore year summer and junior year summers. What should be the priorities for each of these respectively? That's a fascinating question. Let me see. Let me do that. Okay, let's see. Compare sophomore year, junior. What should be the priorities to each of these respectively? Um, it depends on the major. It depends on the field of study. If the student's doing engineering, then I would say sophomore year and junior year summer should be largely the same. Because they're engineering kids, they need a little bit more time in order to develop the profile. I mean, meaning that they need to use more time to develop the profile. Just because the amount that they have to do and the amount that they have to look like they're really committed to it, it tends to dominate over the other over the other fields. If it's something else, like say you ultimately wind up in like political science or government, is there going to be a big difference between sophomore year summer and junior year summer? I wouldn't say so. I would say that it's nice to do something in junior year that's going to be heightened in terms of independence, academic curiosity, deliverable, and so forth. And probably yeah, and maybe a higher level of development, and more of a focus. But I would say with engineering students and CS students, that development and focus should probably be there a little bit earlier. So the sophomore year and junior year, most people will just be kind of like a ramping up from one year to the next. But CS and engineering, maybe a slightly lower ramping up because you already got to be kind of like start a little bit early with those guys. Compare UC summer. So yes, answer live. Yes. Are we gonna have access to recording this webinar? Yes, definitely. How easy or hard is it to get into programs like Cosmos? Well, Cosmos, it's hard. Cosmos, like I said earlier, 15% admit rate probably from our neck of the woods. So 85% of, as I like to say, highly qualified STEM nerds denied. Other programs like Cosmos, there are a lot of programs that are like Cosmos because Cosmos is kind of an entry-level program. It's just super competitive. It's fun once you get there, but it's not like you're, finding the cure for cancer. So a lot of programs like Cosmos, but Cosmos in particular, quite competitive. Is the UC Scout class enough to fill the UC art requirement without giving an AP exam? Yes, because AP exams, at least for senior year classes, for instance, fall after you commit to UC, so you don't need an AP exam to do anything for UC. The course clearance, the A through G clearance, which is what UC Scout is designed to do, is more than enough to do that. If you need an AP exam, it can be helpful, for placement. And there is part of UC that's called admission by examination alone. But the AP exams are not necessary at all, especially with UC's relationship with testing. So yeah, the online UC Scout, that's the whole point of it, clearing the A through G requirements. So if that wasn't able to do it, then it'd be useless. Okay. Follow-up question. Good question. Does a student that did the Cosmos program, does their application stand out during college app season? Let me do this. Let me get to the end of these guys because I'm already starting to run behind. But you got really good questions. Let me just get to these guys and we can have kind of food for thought, and then let me know any other questions as we kind of get through with this. But for med health stuff, just kind of circle back to this. We've got some good options, but a lot of them are going to be face-to-face type options. They're going to be the Georgetown academies as we've got here, the Davis programs, hospital volunteering options out there, 16 plus, but there's plenty of them out there. Certificate programs for medical and health stuff, those actually work. Like CPR certificates, I think that that's a nice addition to a health profile. Doing something like a certificate in epidemiology or an understanding of public health, not necessarily as much, but the CPR thing, I've always kind of liked that. For med and health community college classes, nowhere preferred, not like Foothill with CS. With the community college classes, a lot of them, if you want to do a lab science, a lot more schools are requiring that you do that face to face now. Lab science courses over the past couple of years since the pandemic, a lot of online stuff, not so much anymore. Face to face, you're going to do chem, you're going to do physics, you're going to do bio, got to be there on class, got to be there on campus. So gone over CS programs over the summer, the most popular major. Med options over the summer, health science options over the summer, probably second most popular. Business, still a good number of options over the summer. Economics for Leaders, good 4-day program, not insanely expensive, and nonprofit, been around for like 40 years. A program called Lean Gap, which is an entrepreneurship program, which is okay. There's a good finance program at Bentley University called Wall Street 101. It's 1 or 2 weeks long, good for stocks. Bentley is an all business school, so it really fits there well. And the students that we've had have done it. We've had online and face to face students, and both have done it or both have liked it. For business in particular, I highly recommend a job. I think that is, like I said, I never felt like it was important to have the job for stuff to look like you don't have a silver spoon in your mouth or that you got a little bit of grit. But for business, I think you kind of need to. All depending on what you're doing. If you're doing like, you want to do accounting, maybe not. But with everything else, marketing, management, you know, finance, entrepreneurship. You want to have something concrete and practical that you've done. Um, Finance would be tough, admittedly. Something else over the summer, a couple of competitions that students often prepare for. There's a Wharton stock selection competition that starts at the beginning of the school year that students can prep for over the summer. And there's the National Economic Challenge that students usually prep for at the beginning of the fall, but you could start on it over the summer. NEC awards, always good, always solid. A lot of book learning, a lot of memorization, and not the most thrilling thing in the world, but something that you have an interest in business and econ, and you like testing, you like the book learning, you're not as inclined toward the practical stuff. No, that's nice. Um, Personal venture, we've had lots of personal ventures. Developing mechanical keyboards, flipping shoes, car detailing, like I said, pastry business, like I said, students that'll do drop shipping stuff, another student that did this import export thing with coffee. It always looks good. Again, as long as you've got the lengthy time horizon. Doing it for a month and saying I quit, it doesn't wind up. It doesn't fit the bill. You need a little bit more elbow grease, as my grandpa used to say in that. Um, Political science and law, and then we've got like I think everything else, right? Yeah, so almost done with that, and then I'll jump into questions. Political science and law is the easiest stuff to fill in, just because there's so many opportunities out there. There's the summer programs. There's a great program at Georgetown, a good program at George Washington University, and if you have any interest in military type stuff, or doing anything with, yeah, it would really be kind of, as I said, military type stuff. There's a wonderful program called the Cadet. That's the Civil Air Patrol CAD. It's run by the Air Force. Um, uh, um, in multiple locations around the Bay, as well as other areas. Obviously, it's a nice leadership program. You can move up in ranks. If you have any interest in aerospace engineering, any interest in flight, any interest in the military, really, really good way to get involved. Other thing, same feel, same discipline. Smithsonian volunteering, transcription, Library of Congress transcription, all good. If you want online volunteering, you don't want to deal with people. You do want to deal with people. Like I said, a lot of opportunities to get out there and do canvassing, do phone banking, do translation, and if nothing else, if students want to do something in grassroots political involvement, probably everybody knows that I really like Poly at the end of the Asian Pacific American Leadership Institute. Been around for 26 years right now. College credit bearing, it's a grade. They used to offer it face to face. I think it's now mostly online, but it's still solid. But for getting involved in political science type work, very, very easy and low barrier to entry. A lot of ways to fill in the gaps. Regardless of the field of interest, there's going to be volunteering out there. I think it's best for health sciences and poli sci, and government. But it can work for everything from environmental science to psychology. Environmental science. There's a number of opportunities that are out there from San Francisco City beach cleanups all the way to outreach at the salt flats in the bay, to psychology. The California Youth Crisis Hotline is very good for students that want to do something in psych and or therapy, and you want to deal with working with people in crisis. It's a really good way to kind of support other teens. Especially teens that are going through some really tough times. Good training, totally online, and a volunteering experience. Art portfolio development works for everybody. Test prep works for everybody. Preview classes work for everybody. Jobs better for business people than everybody else, but really work for everybody. And then projects done for the application itself. Like I was talking about, the program where you do something with a digital imaging for marketing. A small month-long project that would take place between 11th and 12th grade. We can fill up a good amount, a real short amount of time with good content if we play our cards right and have something that we want to do that's a creative kind of like application filler program. Just a couple of other things. Okay, yeah, let me go to this and then I'll come back to the questions. Okay, just a couple of questions that always pop up. Number one, internships. This is always like every year there's internship requests. With internships, I think that most people, a lot of people don't know what they mean. I think when they realize what they mean, they typically articulate it as kind of like directly related, kind of practical, semi-professional experience. So if that's the case, then it's hard to find internships for high school students. There are things out there, like for instance, in the case of Sunnyvale, as well as in the case of Fremont. They haven't opened this one up this year yet. But Sunnyvale Chamber of Commerce and Fremont Chamber of Commerce both offer summer internship programs. Historically, competitive, but you really get to see some good practical application of government of the business administration at kind of a public level. In other times, and other cases, internships are managed by the school district, and that's becoming more and more common. Where it'll be part of a career tech education program, or the one that I really am fond of. In the case of San Mateo High School and Aragon High School, a biotech pathway, where but on usually junior year, it seems, and I guess sophomore year, students can apply to summer experiences and hands-on internships with local biotech companies in the peninsula. So is this something that's, again, not easy to find? Every once in a while, you'll find something like with the Valley Transit Authority, or you'll find kind of these like online things that are like fly by night type things. That's really like nobody gets in touch with you. But the point is all the same. The internships are as far as practical, hands-on, relevant, paraprofessional experience can be very, very difficult to find for high school students. It's out there, but it's got to be something where it's kind of like that it's not something that would be like volunteering. Yeah, you find volunteering programs, definitely faculty work, we can make that work. Internship stuff, there just aren't as many out there. Um, uh, um, so just kind of as a mention of that, it's good to have, and the jobs are great, and all the other things are good, but internships can be like a little bit, dicey, not dicey, limited. So that's number one. The second thing that we get a lot of questions on are the paid research opportunities. And there's a number out there. There's Lumiere, there's Pioneer, there's ASDRP in Warm Springs and Fremont, which is a little bit different because they're brick and mortar. Um, but there have, like, over the last 10 years, that's when they started popping up, where it's like, it's an organization that links you up with somebody that's a PhD candidate, or like, or their postdoc or something like that, and they mentor the student through a research experience. Is it, and that's like, and the Inspired AI plus X is kind of similar to that too. Are they good? It depends on what you're looking at them for. If you're looking for them to move the needle on college admissions, no. And I think it's because college admissions officers are getting wise to the programs. With a lot of the programs, they'll take you through the process of research, and there won't be any deliverable. They'll point you in the direction of maybe science fair entry or high school publication, but that's it. In other cases, like the really well developed ones, they'll have their own kind of internal journal. Um, uh, um, but in all cases, the AOs can suss out, it seems, more and more, which one of these are like the paid programs that you're paying somebody to mentor you in research, versus stuff where you're actually with a faculty member who is mentoring you and developing a strong research opportunity along with you, or you're helping them in some way. I think the experiences that these programs offer are excellent if you want to learn about research. I think that if you've got the wherewithal, and to try and search out science fair opportunities, and we can give you input also on high school publications that you could try with, then it's good. But if you're looking for like direct return on investment for college stuff, it's not there as much anymore, I don't think. That said, the student that we had a couple of years ago, like I mentioned, the Caltech kid that did a Spirit AI plus X, that was, one of his essays was on the project that he wound up doing. And it wasn't something that was published. It wasn't something that was patented. It was something that they developed on their own, and it was kind of a passion project, so to speak, without anything coming out of it. Did it help? I don't know. Did it hurt? Definitely not. And I liked it a lot. It was a cool, neat research project that he did. But like I said, did it help? I don't know that it wound up helping. I would say in his case, it was so cool and it complemented everything so well that it probably did. Um, in so many other cases, I would say it doesn't. But people still want the research thing. They still want to have that, which I don't think is bad. And again, like you said, you get a lot out of it, but I don't know if you get the direct ROI on college stuff. You should do it for something where you're getting exposed to research, um, not to get into Harvard. But that's the reason that everybody's doing it, to get into Harvard. So there you go. Um, okay, so before I get into housekeeping, let me go over some of these remaining questions. Okay, so okay, great. Follow-up question. A student who did the Cosmos program, does their application stand out during the college application season? Easy answer. For UC, yes. For everybody else, sort of. For UC, Cosmos is a big deal. Cosmos is its baby. Cosmos is its own sponsored summer program. When you fill out the UC application, you will see there is a slot, a drop down for Cosmos if you've done it. That said, as I've mentioned, Cosmos is very good, but Cosmos is more competitive than it is good. Cosmos is about an 85% denial rate, but it's also an entry level program. There's a little bit of lab work, there's a little bit of field work, there's a little bit of lecturing, but usually the thresholds and the prerequisites aren't that high. It's just the problem is that everybody wants to apply because it helps with UC, and it's also subsidized. It's not super expensive compared to a lot of the other ones. As I've mentioned a lot of the times before too, and I'm sure it's the same this year. 2 years ago, 250 students from Mission San Jose applied from Cosmos. This year, UCLA opened up a new campus. I did the math in my head a while back, and I think I came up with something like that siphoned away 500 kids from other Cosmos clusters. But still, who knows how much that helps? Um, you know, and Cosmos is always so hit or miss. Um, yeah. So does the application stand out for UC? Yes. For everybody else, I think so, because Cosmos is still good. But I would say the direct pedigree and name recognition of Cosmos, you get it stands out with UC in a big way. Next one. Which STEM programs still allow application? It's now March. Okay, well, let's go back to all the slides. So we still have I'm just giving you a hard time. So we got we've got for computer science and spirit, frontiers, and I'll send I'll send the whole recording out afterwards for meds. We've got several of the Georgetown, the Davis programs, the Stanford program. There's still some that are open. I mean, I don't think, like I said, SIP at UC Santa Cruz has an April 1 deadline. I think RMP and SRA don't they have like an April 1 deadline also, or a March 30 deadline, but we've got some that are still open. It's just they're going to probably need letters of recommendation, and they got a lot of essays, and they're hard to get into anyways. So if you wanted something where it's like the more likely opportunities, you're going to in the health sciences have some of these programs, and in everything else in STEM, it's going to be a combination of community college classes, research, and things like that. Okay. Okay, good. How competitive are med health programs? Inversely proportional to how much they cost. The Columbia Summer Program, if it's going to be like pre-med explorations, it's not going to be that hard to get into. If it's something like, SIMMER, the Summer Immunology Medical Research Program at Stanford, yeah, that thing's brutal. That's like a 3 or 4% acceptance rate. Or GRIPS, the Genomic Research Internship Program at Stanford, again, not much higher than that. Boston University Rise, what is like some of the Simons, all of those are super duper hard, but some are still very accessible. The ones that are accessible are the ones that I just mentioned. And if you earlier in the season, in terms of mid-level of accessibility, probably like the cardiothoracic surgical skills program at Stanford. So there's not all or nothing. Some are easier than others. Can we access the slides? Yes, I'll send everything out to everybody. Next, for CS major, how much mileage can we get from building a portfolio website for extracurricular projects, few state awards, and AI related projects? I think that's great. I think that it would be, again, you would want to have the portfolio website. Okay, so you're saying building a website that showcases the portfolio. That's not a bad idea. I mean, if it's something where you're just gonna like use a WordPress template and a GoDaddy like URL, and it takes you like a day, then do it. Because there are some schools, and it didn't used to be this way, and it's very interesting to me. That I've heard that this past year that schools were looking at links that were in the additional information section on the application, and schools didn't used to do that a while back, and there's more applications now. So I don't know why all of a sudden now they're saying they're going to wind up looking at links, but about a half dozen schools last year came out and said that. So yeah, I mean, if you want to build a portfolio or something that'll kind of like showcase what you've done, I don't think it's a bad idea because places are looking at it now. UC won't, but other places on Common App, we can put it in there and it'll work. So yeah, so you get some mileage because you're not spending a ton of time usually doing that. If you want to like build the website, yeah, everybody can build a website. So yeah, you get mileage out of it. Okay, this is a great question. Does Cosmos cluster matter with applying the UC's major? Boy, that's I could go either way on that one. I mean, I think no matter what, Cosmos is helpful. I think that for UC, Cosmos is always going to be good. That said, can you get a lot if you're applying to like electrical engineering, computer science at Berkeley? How much is the UC Santa Cruz Marine Invertebrates cluster going to wind up helping? I don't think it's going to wind up hurting. And if nothing else, it'll show that you're committed to high level academics because Cosmos is tough. But I would say that you'd probably get more out of it if it was going to wind up dovetailing, coordinating, overlapping with the major a little bit more. But by itself, again, I can't, not that you can't like ride it in, but it is hard to overstate how important Cosmos is. There's a bunch of programs that are important to UC. Cosmos, Mesa, Puente, all of these first gen outreach programs usually, and also what are called federal trio programs, Upward Bound, Gear Up, Talent Search, programs that are administered by the Department of Education, usually to access first gen college. AVID, Advancement via Individual Determination. These are all things, not as a teacher, as a tutor, but as a student in the Avid program, these are all things that matter for UC. Okay, hold on. Okay, there's a lot more focus on the prep for the CS field. What is the success rate for med or health for us? Well, for med and for things like that, at least as far as getting in, you can't disaggregate like med from other from at least for admissions from other things in letters and sciences. You know, when you're applying to college, at least as far as the selectivity is concerned, the selectivity is typically at the college level, as it's called. So, you know, you're going to wind up some like the College of Engineering is always selective no matter how you cut it. A College of Business, it's usually second tier of selectivity. College of Arts and Sciences, Letters and Sciences is the catch-all. It's got like, you know, the long-haired hippie like philosophy and English literature and rhetoric kids. And it also has, you know, the bio, the physics, the math, the public health kids. Is there going to be any difference in the admit rate among all of those majors? At the majority of schools, no. In some cases, like UC San Diego, for instance, there are impacted majors in the health sciences. But for like Berkeley, for instance, if you're applying as a philosophy major versus a molecular cell developmental biology major, it'll make no difference. You're going to get the same evaluation from admissions, and you're going to be admitted to Cal undeclared under letters and sciences. Um, you know, if you ask me for like the admit rate to like, you know, BSMD program, accelerated med, I'll say that that's abysmal. But you know, as far as like the getting into like bio or chem or MCDB, that's something that's like you can't really measure that because everybody's under it's the selectivities at the college level. That said, you know, we have had success lately in nursing. Um, uh, um, uh, um, yeah, I was gonna say the nursing has been good this past year. Um, Penn Nursing, last year, Boston College and Georgetown, the year before that, NYU and Michigan. So good with that. Good with nursing. But you know, you're probably looking at like you know at other stuff that's not nursing. But nursing is a direct entry program. Nursing is like you know allied health, BSN, direct to major programs. You can that's kind of a specific path to admission. Getting into like pre-med is not. It's just general arts and sciences. And at 90% of the places, as I said. Okay, so that's number one housekeeping. Let me go to or let me that's all that. Please feel free to keep asking questions. So let me just go to a couple of matters of housekeeping that I wanted to mention before we wrap up. We're going to have several presentations over the next couple of months on Sunday, April 7th, which actually I believe might be Easter. So maybe I'll change that. So Gabby will get in touch with everybody on that. We're going to go over school list selection. You know, we want to get school lists nailed down early. The earlier we can nail down schools, and I've tried my best this year to get college lists out to the rising seniors very early. The more we can nail down schools, the earlier we can get out in front of the essays, the earlier we can complete supplemental essays, the less stressed and panicked and miserable and awful your fall is. And it all starts with the college list selection. Um, I'm going to do another presentation on the essay a couple of weeks after that one, on April 21st. I've literally been doing an essay presentation since 2002, when I was with UC, every year, and it's always good and always interesting and fun. Riley is going to have a whole bunch as well. Riley is as you know our writing director, and he's got really cool, sophisticated ideas on interesting hooks, on setting up the essays and on organizing them for efficiency. On May 19th, I will have we'll do a presentation on the results from this year. The early returns good, not as good as last year, but still good. UC we're seeing, you know, we've got some good results back from LA. You know, Cal is going to wind up coming out probably the end of the month. I don't know if LA was all released on Friday because in years past they've waited until the third week in March to get stuff out. Things might be a little bit later this year too because UC is extending the deposit date, the SIR date, the date to submit the intent to register until May 15th in order to accommodate the late release of the FAFSA. So that means then that there's going to be movement on the wait list later, since you usually as a university need to get a little bit close to the deposit date, the SIR submission date, in order to figure out how many kids are committing. And then you let the kids off the wait list. But your data is good enough though from one year to the next. You can predict earlier than that. So that's what's one. Those are what's coming up. Now to kind of backtrack a little bit on this. This is Riley's brainchild as well. Riley, being a huge college sports fan, wants to bring the world of college sports into admissions. So we've got National Signing Day, as he's calling it, which is usually the date that the students commit to their sports schools. But as we mentioned a million times, or as I have, by June 1, we want two schools in addition to the University of California nailed down. We will nail down and finalize those on the LCCDB, on the college list section. And those are going to be the schools that we officially do that'll count towards our 10, but we need two of those guys nailed down. And if we can get those nailed down, then we can get those frameworks out by the later part, the outlines for the essays out by the later part of June. We can wrap up Common App and UC by the beginning of June, and we can have July and August to complete at least two, if not more, supplemental sets of essays. And for you all that are doing engineering, computer science, going to be applying to a lot of big public schools, you're going to get 6, 7, 8 schools in by that 11/1 deadline. Do not let this bottleneck. It's got to get done over the summer, or else everybody is just, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over the fall. Two schools nailed down. Like I said, that sets the calendar for the rest of the year. We need Common App and UC completed by July 1. If not, the number of EA applications we work on will need to be limited. You can still do them. It's just we can only provide limited help with limited time. And this really is to make sure that you stay on stuff. I don't like I'm super easygoing with everything, and I never want to say to anybody like, you can't do it, it's too late. I really that's kind of, I figure on us as as you guys being the clients and stuff. We got to kind of make adjustments and do it. But there's if you push it back too much, there's only so much we can do, and there's it's sometimes it's better to wait for regular. So I'm not going to be super draconian on that. But still, the early we have stuff in, the more that we can wind up doing. Okay, good. Thank you for your. Okay, let's see what we got. So 2 more things. Would you recommend filling out the FAFSA lot? Okay, good. Would you recommend filling out the FAFSA or not? Excellent question. These are the last 2 questions that we look like we got. I don't know. It's not like anybody around here gets much need-based money. And the FAFSA is really good for need-based aid. Is there any disadvantage to doing it? No. Is there any real advantage to filling out the FAFSA? Because you can get it waived for if there's a graduation requirement right now, but you don't need to do it. Periodically, there will be colleges that will, as part of their merit-based scholarship requirement, require completion of the FAFSA. Like Virginia Tech. In order to get merit-based scholarships at Virginia Tech, you need to have a FAFSA completed. They don't consider the need when they're evaluating you, but it's like a state scholarship requirement. So periodically you'll run into schools like that, but otherwise, as far as getting money, it's not going to help that much. The only thing that you could potentially get out of it, which is not very helpful, if you're like a middle to high income family from the Valley, is you could qualify for a PLUS loan, a parent loan for undergraduate students. There's got a variable interest rate that I think is capped at 8.125%. So not like great at all. But you want to qualify for that, then you got to fill out the FAFSA and but private lenders are not going to have that same issue. So is it necessary to do it? Probably not. Not unless you're like real low income, or you're like all cash and got the mattress full of money. And otherwise, you're reporting income to the feds and the state, and you're usually not gonna, from our area. I mean, like federal free and reduced lunch and Pell Grant thresholds are so low, and work study thresholds are so low. I mean, maybe you get, some kind of like federally unsubsidized loan, but that's it. So long story short, you can if you want. It's not going to help that much. Is it going to hurt? No, and it'll help with like the Virginia Tech thing. Second thing, what are the extracurriculars a med student could do to differentiate themselves for the rest of the students applying for med at UC? So, good question. When applying to any undergraduate institution, you're never applying to med. You're applying to something like bio or public health or none of those majors, but you're intent on taking a pre-med curriculum there, meaning a sequence of about 12 classes made up of organic chem, inorganic chem, 2 semesters of physics, a semester of calc, 2 semesters of like social science and psychology, and things like that. So you don't need to be a bio major or any STEM major in order to go pre-med. And so it's consequently, it's not as though you need to like kind of, package yourself as a pre-med major, like, like a teenage doctor MD for undergrad. The reason that you would be doing that, or the point of doing the activities in high school would be to show an interest, generally speaking, in the life sciences. And showing an interest in the life sciences is going to entail summer research, any sort of research programs, community college classes to a certain extent. You want to show your exposure to the health sciences field, hospital volunteering, hospice volunteering, CPR type stuff, working for medically related outreach organizations. That all helps. It's not like computer science, though, where you need to have the computer science background in order to look like a good computer science applicant. Why not? Because med is not direct entry. You're not going into medical school from high school. You are going into a computer science and engineering program from high school. But again, from high school, you're going into probably a molecular cellular developmental biology major housed under the College of Letters and Sciences that admits students all equally. So the project really not is not to look good for medical school, but to look like an academically curious student in the life sciences and somebody that wants to help people. Um, Once you get into undergrad, then you start building the profile for med. And that's going to be made up of several different components: your overall GPA, your science GPA, your pre med GPA, your MCAT scores, and your medically related involvement. The medically related involvement should involve research, it should involve outreach, it can involve any number of public health or hands on research or exploratory components. But that's where you would do stuff that was more related directly to the medical field. Um, there are programs that are offered that are like medical, kind of like what would you call it? Simulation programs. For instance, the Georgetown Academies, these guys that are going to wind up being in everything from meds. Oh, where the heck are they? Over here. Everything from med to politics and so forth. But these 2 week academies are good. The 1 week academy and like the medical academy, that one's solid. Um, uh, is it going to prepare you for medical school? Is it going to help you get into medical school? Not at all. Will it directly help you get into undergrad? Probably not so much, but it'll give good content for the essays and it'll give a good jumping off point maybe for the following summer. Um, but that program is solid. There are a couple of programs, as I mentioned, at Davis that are good. They've got one that's just straight up called pre-med, another one environmental toxicology, a third one forensics. All of these guys could work. And as I mentioned before, there's the Stanford Youth Leadership Conference, the Young Leaders Conference, which is affiliated with hepatitis B awareness. That one's really good. But again, if you want to be med, if you want to do med, generally, you want to just focus on health science type stuff here, and you don't need to start doing like practicing suturing. And there are programs that do that, like the Stanford Cardiothoracic Surgical Skills Program. I mean, you're doing suturing, you're learning how to do stitching. And when they were doing it during the pandemic, you'd get a box of artificial skin and suturing materials. So there are those things out there, but they're going to be more for exposure and maybe a line item on the resume rather than building a truly unique profile for med. Um, you want to build a unique or a real strong profile for med, it's like the programs, competitions, USABO, U.S. Bio Olympiad, public health outreach work, translating at local clinics. Used to be a great online program called Health Tap, where you would get emails and phone calls from folks in a particular language that you translate into English for a doctor. But yeah, that kind of stuff.